welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rahbar. Brandon, how are you on this day before the second round of the Western Conference playoffs?
Good. I'm excited to watch some playoff basketball in Oklahoma City. It's been a while. The Thunder have only played 4 games in the past 3+ weeks. So I am really looking forward to being back in the Paycom Center with Loud City to watch this round.
Well, it's going to be the Thunder against the Nuggets. They outlasted the Clippers in a grueling 7-game matchup, but that game 7 was really not much of a game. The Nuggets ran away with it. They were led by 30-plus points in the game. Did you see that result coming?
Yeah, I think in a game 7, you have to go with the home court team. This was a coin flip series anyways. Denver has a great home court advantage, despite Ballmer flying in over 100 fans from LA to cheer, which I thought was really funny and cool, by the way. But, Denver, their elevation, their home court crowd, it's a coin flip series, a game 7, you got to go with the home court team. I didn't see it being a blowout like this, but I thought Denver was going to win.
Yeah, and we talked about it. I thought the Clippers were the better team, but the Nuggets having home court might have been the advantage in that game 7, and then things just really snowballed for the Clippers in that second half. I mean, it was a competitive game in the first half. The Nuggets kind of took control late in the second quarter and then ran away with it. So I don't know if that gives you any indication of the momentum that the Nuggets are going to come in on, and if that's an advantage for them maybe in game 1. They're not going to be as rested as the Thunder, but they played recently, and they're going to be ending their series on a high note.
Yeah, so there's the whole rest versus rust, debate, argument. I think ultimately you want that rest. I mean, for any sort of lingering injuries, nicks, bruises, bumps, anything like that, the Thunder are going to be very well rested. But on the other hand, and Mark Daigneault said this, there's a give and take. There's some pros and cons to each one because Denver, they've been playing competitive basketball all week and they're coming in a rhythm. And, I think there's some advantages to that. But if you had to choose one, I think you would still choose the rest over, playing all week.
Well, because of this important series, we needed an emergency pod to preview the series, the matchups, and maybe get some predictions to see how smart we look at the end of the series. But let's start matching up the two teams respectively. The Thunder are one of the top teams in the NBA, both offensively and defensively. They led the league in net rating and SRS. They're top 3 in both offense and defense. But you look at the Nuggets, who are one of the better offensive teams in the NBA. They are also one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. So that aside, what do you think are the keys from a team standpoint in this series for the Thunder and the Nuggets?
Yeah, for the Thunder, I think it's just, stay to their identity. They've been one of the best regular season teams of all time for a reason. It's because they play, very smart, high IQ basketball on the offensive end. And then on the defensive end, they apply so much pressure, they cause turnovers, and they are just a beast defensively. They're going to bring that effort, that 100% effort that we're used to seeing, and it's ratcheted up in the playoffs as we saw in the first round. For the Nuggets, I mean, it all starts with their offense. Obviously, it all, kind of runs through Jokic. He gets so many touches. I think that his supporting cast, and I said this before the Clippers-Nuggets series, I thought the supporting cast has become underrated. They've got some really good players around Jokic, and, obviously they don't have great depth. They have basically 6 players they really trust, maybe 6.5 when you include Peyton Watson. But those 6.5 guys are really pretty good. And, in the playoffs, when you shrink minutes and play your top guys more, I guess, on one hand, you could say depth is a big advantage for the Thunder, but maybe it doesn't make as much of a difference because the Nuggets are playing their guys so many minutes. But, will they get worn down as games go on and as the series go on? I think the biggest key when you look at the different units, like the Thunder offense, Thunder defense, Denver offense, and then Denver defense, I think it is the Denver defense because that is kind of the one thing that stands out. Denver's offense is great. Thunder's offense is great. Thunder's defense is great. But the Denver's defense has been weak, as you said, all season long. And if they're going to have a chance in this series, they're going to have to play much better defense against the Thunder.
Yeah, and if we compare maybe the regular season results, the Thunder went 2-2 against the Nuggets. The first 3 games, though, you would say advantage Thunder. In the first time they played back October, the Thunder easily handled the Nuggets 102-87. In game 2, early November, it was the Nuggets just barely edging out the Thunder. And then in game 3 on March 9th, the Thunder just absolutely destroyed the Nuggets in it was viewed as an MVP battle between Jokic and SGA. But then the Nuggets came right back around the following day and really handled the Thunder, which led to a 2-2 series tie for the regular season, though. What can you take away, though, from the regular season matchups to indicate how this might go? Because if you didn't look at that 2-2 result, you might think this is going to be a really competitive series that could go 7 games.
Yeah, I really look more towards those recent two, those back-to-backs that were kind of labeled as the MVP showdown, the doubleheader, just because those first 2 games, neither team was really at full strength. And what I took away, that first game, the Thunder dominated. The second game, Denver, won by a pretty big margin. But that game that Denver won, it was such an outlier in that their shooting was unbelievable. Jamal Murray obviously went off, but Russell Westbrook went off. Peyton Watson went off. Jalen Pickett, who's probably not going to play in this series at all, went off. So it was just kind of this weird outlier game. Now, I'm not saying that, you should trust one game more than the other just because the Thunder won that first game. But, all the hype was on that first game. Second game was a back-to-back. It was Chet's first back-to-back after coming back from that injury. It was just kind of a weird game. The Thunder did dominate that first game. My takeaway is that the Nuggets don't have anybody to guard Shea. If you're looking at the 4 games as a whole, they just don't have an SGA defender. Like the Clippers, if the Thunder would have played the Clippers, you can throw Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr. on Shea. Obviously, Shea's still going to get his, but, they could work to slow him down and make him work harder. I just don't see anybody on the Nuggets who can do that to Shea. Then with the Nuggets, we saw this in the 2 games, and we've seen it in the first series against the Clippers. They're going to play their top 6 guys a ton of minutes. And so I don't even think you need to really look much at Pickett, Strother, even DeAndre Jordan's probably going to play 5 minutes a game. Their main guys are going to play a lot of minutes. When you're looking at cross matchups, you can really focus on 6 guys. And, their offense has been humming in this playoffs. It was humming all season long. But the Thunder do have the defenders to throw at the Nuggets. I just don't see the Nuggets having the defenders to slow down Shea and J-Dub and Chet.
Well, let's run through some of the individual matchups, though. So we'll start with SGA versus Jamal Murray. But maybe we'll approach it from this way. Who do you expect the Thunder to use to defend Jamal Murray, and who do you expect the Nuggets to defend SGA?
Yeah, that's the question. I would assume Dort will get the Jamal Murray assignment, and then the Shea is it going to be? Is it going to be Jamal Murray trying to check Shea? Is it going to be Russell Westbrook when he checks in, off the bench trying to check Shea? Is it going to be Christian Brown trying to check Shea? Christian Brown did a good job on James Harden in Game 7. Do they trust Christian Brown to try to take the Shea assignment? I assume, honestly, it'll end up being, a little bit of all 3. They'll probably all take turns. They'll probably double Shea quite a bit. They'll probably try to trap Shea and force other players to beat them, which I think would be just completely fine for OKC if they decide to do that. Shea will make those reads and he'll make the right play. So yeah, I think it'll kind of be a little bit of Murray, a little bit of Brown, a little bit of Russ.
And then do you expect SGA then to probably defend Christian Brown?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think Shea would take the Christian Brown assignment. The Thunder is so funny because they're so versatile and they're unpredictable a lot of times because they have so many guys that can, defend up and down the lineups. But yeah, I would think Shea, for the most part, takes probably Christian Brown. Maybe Michael Porter Jr. Shea does have some length. So I could also see that as well.
Yeah, I guess I kind of expected that J-Dub would match up against Michael Porter Jr., and I think in that you have to give the edge to J-Dub, although, at times Michael Porter Jr. can show out.
Yeah, he can. Michael Porter Jr. is going to put up some shots. He's going to put up some threes, and you just kind of, have to ride it if he's hot, he's going to be hot. But if he's off, he's still going to put those shots up. And you just want to close out. And you want to put a hand in front of him because he's going to get the shots up.
Well, I think what will be most interesting to see, especially because Jokic is probably going to play 40, 41, 42 minutes a night, and how the Thunder match up on the interior side with Hartenstein and with Holmgren. Certainly, you've got Gordon and Jokic on the inside, though. I'm assuming that we would expect that Hartenstein will sort of start defending Jokic so that Holmgren can kind of maybe roll and patrol the paint and also defend Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I would assume so too. I think it'll be Hartenstein taking the Jokic assignment with Chet playing the four and kind of, playing free safety and roaming and weak side and all that stuff. I will say this. Now, I'm not saying the Thunder are going to do this, but the the season opener way back in October, remember Hartenstein was hurt and Chet was healthy. So the Thunder just played Chet as the starting five, and Chet was outstanding and actually outplayed Jokic in that game, defended Jokic in a great way. I'm not saying the Thunder are going to do that, but, at times, will the Thunder trust just Chet to be on an island with Jokic or Hartenstein to be on an island with Jokic? I'm very, very curious. I'm not saying they will or they won't, but, I know that Mark Daignault is all about collecting data points, and I know that data point is in his back pocket.
Yeah, and that's what I'd be curious to see what the overall defensive scheme is. So the way that the Thunder defended Jokic in the regular season, are there any takeaways from that? Do you think that we would look for the Thunder to apply here in the playoffs?
Not necessarily, because it looks so different throughout the different games. So, and I think that especially, okay, so you go back to that doubleheader, the first game where the Thunder, were healthy. And then, of course, Aaron Gordon gets hurt. And then that second game of the doubleheader, Chet's playing his first, back-to-back, and he didn't look like himself. He didn't look like he did that first game. So, when you look at the series as a whole, each game was so different. I don't know what the main takeaways are going to be, but ultimately Hartenstein with his size, and then Chet with his shot blocking and rim defense ability. I think we will see heavy doses of double bigs would be my guess against the Nuggets, because they are going to play Jokic and Aaron Gordon big minutes. Both of those guys probably play 40 minutes tomorrow. So I imagine, if I were to guess, the Thunder would play the double bigs quite a bit. But remember, Alex Caruso also defended Jaren Jackson Jr. in the first round, and I would not be surprised if they trust Alex Caruso to guard Aaron Gordon or let J-Dub take an Aaron Gordon assignment for minutes as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think you could expect that you could stagger Chet and Hartenstein a little bit, and you can slide J-Dub to defend Aaron Gordon, and you could throw Caruso out there, and I think he could defend like a Michael Porter Jr. He doesn't have much size, but he's got the skills and abilities to defend guys who are larger than him.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Thunder are so unpredictable with their defense. Who knows who's going to take who, and that's what they want. They want to be unpredictable. They want to be able to switch basically everything if they need to and have all these guys. When they traded for Alex Caruso, one of the first things that they said was he can scale up and guard basically 1 through 4, but we've even seen him guard 5s. So Alex Caruso can do that. We know for a fact J-Dub can guard 1 through 5, and then Shea can guard 1 through 3, Dort can guard 1 through 4, Cason Wallace 1 through 3. So you go up and down the lineup of all these great defenders. That's the idea. When you play a great offense like the Nuggets in the playoffs, you just have all these defenders that can guard up and down the lineup.
Something else that I would observe from the earlier season matchups, especially in that back-to-back, in the game that Thunder won, 127-103, neither team really turned the ball over very much. The Thunder just forced 7 Denver turnovers. The Thunder themselves only turned the ball over 5 times. The difference in that game was the shooting. The Nuggets did not shoot the ball very well. They shot just 41% from the floor and 30% from 3, which really impacted the Nuggets' ability, the Nuggets' offense, because their offense sort of ran the same. They're a high pass offense. Jokic is in that high post, and he's kind of playing that role of quarterback, distributor, and it's not necessarily like he's backing down and ISOing people up on possession after possession. And then if shots aren't following when the ball rotates for them, they're very one-dimensional or not a very good offense. But then in the game 2, same sort of setup. turnovers were pretty low, but the shots were falling. Is that really what it's going to come down to, is whether Denver can shoot a high percentage or not?
I mean, in a lot of ways, yeah, I think so, because the reason they lost that fourth game, the second game of the doubleheader, they could not miss. I can't remember what the number was, but they hit an absurd number of threes in the second half, and they just could not miss. But some of that the Thunder can't control with their defense, and that's why I'm really, really curious to see how they defend Jokic. Like, do they trust either Hartenstein or Chet kind of on an island and kind of play him straight up, or do they throw doubles at him, which will mean it's tougher to close out and defend 3-point shooters because Jokic will find the open man. And are they going to allow Russell Westbrook, who's been an X factor? He was pivotal, by the way. Shout out to Russell Westbrook for all the slander he's taken throughout the years. I don't think the Nuggets win that series against the Clippers without Russell Westbrook. But my point was going to be, Russ has been pretty fire from the corners throughout the season, and definitely in that Clippers series. Like, do the Thunder employ what they did against the Mavs last year, where they let the worst shooters take those open threes? Obviously, I think the strategy was sound. It made sense. Unfortunately, PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., those guys went off. Like, do they do that against the Nuggets? Do they try to double Jokic and leave some corner shooters open, or do they play them straight up? I'm very, very curious. But the good news is they now have Alex Caruso playing defense instead of Josh Giddey. They now have Isaiah Hartenstein. The Thunder are more well-equipped to play so many different ways. They're so versatile. I trust this defense in the playoffs, and I trust Mark Daignault to come up with a scheme to slow down the Nuggets. But yeah, the Nuggets offense is a beast, but so is the Thunder defense. And I think the Thunder defense can slow down at least that Nuggets offense.
Yeah, I would expect, we see quite a few threes taken by Russell Westbrook from the corner in this series. And maybe the difference in this series versus the regular season is just how quickly the Thunder are going to rotate over and close out on shooters, knowing that they're going to leave those guys open to collapse. But, there's going to be a little extra burst here in the playoffs to close out on shooters and maybe put a little more pressure on Russ to take those and make those threes. I will stop here. I was going to bring it up in a bit about Russell Westbrook. I don't think it's really even a debate. The Nuggets don't advance without Westbrook. He had an incredible series. He was a game changer at multiple points. So how do you think the crowd reaction will be in a game with so much at stake? Will the Thunder crowd continue to give Russ an ovation when he checks in?
Yeah, we are in uncharted territory here. Thunder legend Russell Westbrook always gets a huge ovation every single time he's back in OKC, no matter what uniform he's in, whether it's the Rockets, whether it's Clippers, Lakers, Nuggets, Wizards, you name the team. I imagine, this would be my guess, that when Russell Westbrook checks in, he is still going to get a huge ovation because it's Russ, despite it being the playoffs. But then after that, like, no cheering for us. Like, the next few times he checks in, probably not the big ovations. And we've seen that, in regular season, every time he would check in, he would get a big ovation. Now, I imagine, it's the same for every game. Like, the beginning of every game, like game 1 comes in, huge ovation. Game 2, I think when he checks in, huge ovation. But then after that, no cheering. Definitely no cheering when he scores. Maybe some mild applause when he checks in, later on in the game. But yeah, I mean, it's Russell Westbrook. He's always going to be a Thunder fan favorite, going to get the statue, the jersey retirement, all that thing. But this Thunder team and these Thunder fans have, expectations for the season beyond this round. And, Russell Westbrook, like you said, was a huge X factor in that, first series against the Clippers. So it's going to be rooting for the Thunder over Russ, undoubtedly, for the Thunder fans.
Now let's flip the analysis. We spent a long time talking about the Thunder defense and how they match up and can chain, that very potent Nuggets offense. Let's ask how the Nuggets are going to defend and try to contain the equally, if not more potent OKC offense. We talked a little bit about how the Nuggets may try to defend SGA. And I mean, I think maybe they got to try to use Christian Brown, because I'm not sure Jamal Murray can keep up with SGA for 35, 40 minutes in that game. So we know SGA is going to be able to attack the way that he wants to attack. How do you think the Nuggets can defend or try to keep J-Dub under containment?
I don't know. Like, I really don't know. Like, when I look at that's the thing. And that's why I keep coming back to the Denver defense. And it was, it was bad this year. And the rim protection is bad. And Shea and Dub love to live in the paint, attacking the rim. And if they try to wall off the paint like we saw the Grizzlies do, well, they don't have, they don't have the defenders to close out and to make the 3-point shooting rough. But I would imagine that's probably what they default to, though. They'll probably try to take away the Thunder's biggest strength, which is attacking the paint, and kind of hope that the Thunder don't have a good shooting night from, the other guys. That said, the Thunder have been one of the best 3-point shooting teams since the calendar turned to January 1st, 2025. But maybe Denver just lives with that and hopes that, the Thunder can't shoot themselves a series win. I don't know. They just don't have the defenders to slow down Shea and J-Dub. And then Chet, Hartenstein with his floater, Dort, he's underrated as far as like his 3-point shooting and volume and percentage this season. And you got Isaiah Joe coming off the bench and Alex Caruso. Like, I don't know. I don't know if the Nuggets have the answer to that. So I definitely don't have the answer to that. But my guess would be they do their best to help Jokic out with rim protection and kind of trying to wall off the paint would be my guess.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to pivot next, because that's the question of how they do that, right? So I guess if you're going to try to contain the paint, you're going to want to have Jokic on Hartenstein so that Gordon can swing over and swat shots and patrol the paint.
That would be my guess. Yeah, because the only other three guys are, they're not shot blockers, like Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, and then rest off the bench. Like, it's basically Gordon and Jokic, and then DeAndre Jordan for the few minutes that he's going to play.
And I think that's something that'll be interesting to see, because we saw Hart and Chet play in that back-to-back against the Nuggets, but the double big lineup, I think, has progressed since that point as well. They played more games together. Their rapport has improved. And if you've got Chet matched up against Aaron Gordon, the way Chet's been shooting in the playoffs so far, he can pull Aaron Gordon out of the paint. And that takes away one of the strengths maybe that Denver might have to contain the interior driving ability of the Thunder, of J-Dub, of an SGA.
That's exactly right. Chet is a cheat code. And this is why when you have a 7'1" guy who can shoot from three and you have to respect him, it makes things really, really difficult for a defense, especially when you have Shea and Dub who like to attack the paint. Like that big three, that's why they're so special. They complement each other so well. And from the Nuggets defensive standpoint, and then if the Thunder decide not to play double bigs and they play small, that puts some pressure on them too, because all of a sudden, Chet shooting from three and pulling out Jokic. Either that or you leave Jokic down there and still bring Aaron Gordon out. But then you have even more shooters on the perimeter, because Hartenstein's the one player truly that the Thunder do play that doesn't shoot from the perimeter. Everybody else does. So the minutes that Hartenstein's not on the court, it's basically a 5 out, which puts a lot of pressure on. So there's a lot of pressure on that Nuggets defense either way the Thunder decide to play.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think about the way that the bench may play when you've got SG off the court. You might have a J-Dub, and you'll throw Joe out there and Caruso. Well, that's a lot of shooting on the perimeter there. And so it's going to pull any kind of interior defense out for the Nuggets. And then you're going to put Jokic on an island on the inside. It really is going to be interesting to see how the Nuggets try to slow the Oklahoma City offense. And just like we were saying, that the Nuggets and their ability to take some games in this series is probably going to depend on them having really hot nights shooting. In the inverse, they're going to need to hope that the Thunder are just putrid shooting the ball.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's exactly how they won that second game of the doubleheader. Like, I keep going back to that, but that's because it's the most recent game, and they scored 140 points, which the Thunder defense just does not give up 140 points, but they couldn't miss. And the Thunder didn't have a very good shooting night. And I think that's the key to Denver winning some games or winning the series is, hoping that you have a handful of games where you're on fire from three and the Thunder just can't hit anything from three. Because if you look at, the strengths and weaknesses of both teams and all four units within those teams, the advantage is definitely to the Thunder because they have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, whereas the Thunder have a top 5 offense but a pretty bad defense. So that's what it will come down to. And if the Nuggets were to steal this series and upset the Thunder, that's what it's going to come down to is probably shooting variance.
Going through this analysis, is there anything else about this matchup that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, I say that, and then I do feel like I should, add more to that because that maybe kind of underrates this Nuggets offense. Jokic is incredible. Like he is a dominant player, and he can swing a series just due to his, offensive abilities and his gravity. And yes, this Denver defense is bad, but every defense gets a little bit better just through effort and energy and playing your best players in the playoffs. So this Denver defense, as we saw in Game 7 against the Clippers, has the ability to be better. So given that this, when I was previewing the Clippers Nuggets and saying who I thought was a better matchup for the Thunder, I thought that the Clippers would be a better matchup for the Thunder just because the Nuggets offensive ceiling is so high. Like when they're on, like Jamal Murray can go off, Michael Porter Jr. can get hot, Christian Brown can get hot. We've seen Russell Westbrook can be a swing factor, and Aaron Gordon can be a really good offensive player as well. And then of course there's Jokic. So the Nuggets offense, the ceiling is incredibly high. And so I don't want to make it seem like, it would take like, a miracle or anything like that for them to, the shooting variance. I don't want to just like, poo-poo away just some shooting variance because this Nuggets offense can be really, really good. I just think when it comes down to it, the Thunder are the better team overall. And the Thunder's offense is really, really good. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They are one of the few teams in the entire league who can play against the Nuggets and say, hey, we may have the better player for a 7-game series. Not many teams can say that against the Nuggets, but OKC is one of those teams. And then you add in J-Dub and Chet, Caruso, Hartenstein, Dort, and all the role players the Thunder have, and this Thunder defense that was pretty historic and special in the regular season. I think the Thunder are the better team. But yes, I feel like I should at least say the Nuggets ceiling is pretty high with that offense.
And that's fair. The Nuggets are good. Them taking the series against a pretty good Clippers team, a team that had gotten better throughout the season, that got Kawhi back, and Kawhi was playing pretty good. They contained James Harden. Harden had a terrible Game 7. I mean, the Nuggets did all the right things to make it out of that series, which do make them a challenging matchup for the Thunder, especially with how good their offense is and how much pressure they're going to put on the Oklahoma City defense. But I guess the way that I look at it, and I've watched the Thunder play, and they won 72 games. And the takeaway that I see it is that the Thunder, they need to be in the vicinity of their potential, and they're probably going to be just fine. The Nuggets need to play pretty much close to perfection or near the maximum of their potential if they're going to get past the Thunder. And the challenge of doing that at least 4 times out of 7 is going to be really hard for the Nuggets. So, I have a lot of confidence going into this series, but certainly it is the playoffs. Anything can happen. The rotations get a lot smaller. And, as long as those guys for the Nuggets, those 6 guys, have the energy to keep up, it's not going to be a 4-0 sweep by the Thunder.
Yeah, agreed. I definitely do not expect a serious sweep, and I completely agree with you. The Nuggets need to play to their ceiling, to their upside, to their potential. The Thunder have more leeway just because they're the better team. They are the better team. The Thunder are like throughout the regular season. We've seen this Thunder team. We've seen this Nuggets team. The better team doesn't fire their coach and their general manager a week before the playoffs start. There's a reason why the Thunder are favored, and they should be favored. This Thunder team has been a juggernaut throughout the season, and I expect the Thunder to win. I do think that the Nuggets have a great offensive ceiling, and I expect their effort and energy on defense to be better than it was in the regular season. But I also expect this Thunder team to bring it. This is going to be a fun series. I think this is going to be a good series, and ultimately, the Thunder are the better team, and I expect them to win.
And what do you think about the Game 1 fan shirts and the Game 1 city jerseys for the Thunder, that pairing?
Oh, I love it. I love the court. I love the jerseys. I love the fact that they're going to have a blackout. This is also new territory. We've never seen a blackout, right? I've been to every Thunder playoff game. I don't remember ever having a blackout, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's the first.
So this is fun. I'm excited. I think it looks cool. They literally, while we're recording this podcast, the Thunder just released the first pictures of what the arena looks like with all the shirts on the chairs. I think it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. Games 1 and 2 against the Grizzlies, the crowd was nuts. They were awesome. And that was against the Grizzlies. This is going to be against Jokic, Russell Westbrook, and the Nuggets in an intense playoff series. I think the crowd is going to be outstanding Game 1, and it's going to look really, really cool on TV, I think, with those shirts.
Yeah, I just pulled up the pictures. It looks incredible. So very excited about Game 1 tomorrow night. But now let's get to the pressure point of the podcast where you give your prediction of the series and how it's going to play out.
I think Thunder win Game 1. And I just have a really hard time seeing the Nuggets winning 4 of 6 against a Thunder team that's won 14 games all season. I have the Thunder in 6. Which means that the Thunder would win, the series in Denver, which seems tough, but it doesn't feel like a 7-game series to me, and it doesn't feel like a 5-game series to me. It just feels like a 6-game series. So I got the Thunder winning 4-2 and going to the Western Conference Finals. All
right. That's we're going to lock in here from Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer. A Thunder in 6 series win, and for the record, I'll say I agree with that. That was my thought coming into this series. But I feeling very good about this team and what their potential is. Would not be shocked if it's Thunder in 5.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would not be shocked to see that as well. Like the Thunder win all 3 home games and pick up 1 in Denver. I could absolutely see that as well.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast. He's Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episode and all this incredible playoff coverage. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back in your feed soon.